Wind has been going like this pretty much non-stop all night.
That was a surprisingly warm night to the point where I was almost tempted to delayer this. The wind was going pretty much the entire night, really loud, but I was reasonably protected down here. Unfortunately, morning coffee has been a bit of a bummer because I filled this out of that Dipping Lake area, and most of the time water will filter clear. I mean, you can see there's no particulates in it, but sometimes it will have a definite kind of taste or stank to it. I normally carry fruit punch and lemonade Crystal Light packets to help with that, but it is kind of a bummer when I'm sipping my coffee and instead of coffee flavor, it's what's wrong with that? I'm still drinking a second cup though, because priorities. It is at least heartening that if I'd been a little more disciplined at getting out earlier yesterday, I would have been in the low 20s mileage wise, which is closer to where I need to be. I was aiming for 22 a day last year, just as a general ballpark. Downside of how I do these videos is I can't be a super early riser departure person because I just can't maintain the videos. Every time I hit a part of the trail where I'm doing that, last one was during the heat wave in Louisiana on the Mississippi, I just get massively behind and stressed out. But hey, it works out. I usually have enough physical issues out on these where it's not a bad thing not to be pushing as many miles as possible. I remember on the PCT, I'd see people who were saying they were doing, 35, 40 mile days, but they were constantly having to take a bunch of days off. And as satisfying as it is, like going through the basin where I was doing 30 plus miles a day, I much rather would be able to hit just sustainability, aka my body can handle it, and I'm able to minimize town stops. Speaking of minimizing town stops, today that is not happening. I'm gonna splurge on a room in Chama is the plan. I'm just wanting to get this battery stuff dealt with. Meanwhile, this morning the weather reports keep debating whether it's going to be raining a bit or just a little cloudy. Areas like this are another reason I'm so against telling people to hang their food to avoid bears. It's hard to do that under the best ideal circumstances. When you get into a lot of areas like this, the trees just aren't suitable. You're never going to be able to find a branch far enough away from a tree trunk where it's theoretically safe from a bear. I say theoretically because I've seen just too many failures of bear hangs out east and other places to trust that method anymore. Half the time trying to discuss bear food storage methods, though, is like trying to argue religion. We had somebody, if you look at the CDT hiker survey for last year, I'm pretty sure the person complaining about unsafe bear storage is complaining about Jen and I, because we were talking about our method of food storage, which is sleeping with the food, making sure it's right by us in the tent. It's literally in between us inside of a bag when it's the two of us, and when it's me, it's inside my pack, jammed right beside me. I have run into people who claim, oh yeah, they sleep with their food, but they put their food bag outside their vestibule or right inside their vestibule just in case something comes after it, which is getting pretty damn close to just feeding bears. My personal theory is most of the times bears are ripping into tents, it's because somebody has food inside the tent and they leave it alone in there. And as I've mentioned before, I never do that. When I go dig a cat hole in the morning, if I'm sleeping with my food goes with me. It's basically never out of arm's reach. And I've had bears around. I've never had an incident as far as bears coming into camp. The other part of that, of course, is I avoid these super busy campsites, which tend to get known for people leaving food out unguarded, and bears get a hold of it, and then you get problematic bears. See Cosby Knob on the AT, Hidden Pond on the Florida Trail, that one Vincent Gap campsite up San Gorgonio out in Southern California. Back in the days of the PCT kickoff, they had a bear ranger show up from Yosemite or Yellowstone, one of those. And I remember her talking about how, you know, bears are smart and curious, and that is a bad combo when it comes to defeating food storage methods. And unfortunately, as with lightning and things in the water, you know, Giardia, Cryptosporidia, there just isn't really good statistical information out there that I've ever seen. It is worth reading if you're interested in the topic. Speaking of bears, or Speaking to Bears, something like that. It's a book that covers the history of bear management in Yosemite and Kings Canyon. Except it'll make you sad with just how little history and how little management there has been. It is trippy hearing about the rangers feeding bears from platforms next to dumps. Or hell, out in the AT where they used to have wire fences to pull across the front of the shelters, and people would feed the bears through those. The best wilderness first aid instructor I've ever had liked to quote back at people that unfortunately the plural of anecdote is not data. So there is no 100% safe way. Maybe a bear can. Those are the ones that I personally have the most faith in, having seen the effect they've had in the Sierra Nevada. And I do have a bear can, and I use it whenever I'm in the Sierra. But while most Triple Crown types won't admit it, the vast majority of the ones I've talked to will tell you that, at least for most of the trails, they slept with their food. Some people got extra nervous up in like grizzly territory on the CDT or other things, but I think if people were being honest, the using it as your pillow method would be the most commonly used out there. And at least from any of the incidents I've gotten wind of, the only failures doing that are the people who are half-assing it, leaving the food unguarded, or again, the person who was sleeping with their food but leaving it at the outside of their vestibule just in case. I did have a bear come within about 2 feet of my tent and huff and click its jaw at me on the AT. I'm sure he smelled food, and I'm sure he smelled human. And if everything's working right, the human part dissuades him from the food part. And I had a pretty big beard at the time. My beard probably had enough food particles where if things were really as sensitive as some folks I've talked to think, they'd probably just be coming for my face. And once again, I was following cairns, following an established use trail. All of a sudden it dead-ended into some scrub, and it turns out I'm off trail. I think the thing that keeps getting me and other people out here is in some other sections there are cross-country bits, but there's pretty clear jumping off points. Go to this junction, go to this saddle, start cross-country, and from here. Here it just seems to meander. And like here, you can just be strolling along only to have your footpath that looks exactly the same as what you've been following for the last hour disappear. Sometimes somebody's gone to the trouble of sticking posts or cairns out, which makes it a little easier. But I think the true solution is obviously we start an initiative to turn cows into redliners. Just establish the ever-living crap out of these trails. At least I think each time I've done this and I'm tromping cross country, I see a patch of dirt and end up finding other footprints. So at least I'm in good company, right? A few days ago I was talking about how they normally don't mark campsites on the waypoints on the CDT. Whoever sourced the original ones, just for whatever reason. So, if anything, you find campsite notes in the comments of junctions and streams and things like that. However, in this section, there is one campsite marker, and it is that pile of rocks right up here at the tip of this. For the record, the comments are mostly that it is horrible and unsuitable for a campsite. Oh, so many pretty canyons that I don't get to go down on this trail. Okay, and this would be the high point of the remainder. ass kicking that the Colorado Red Line's been. I really wish Cumbers was on the New Mexico side just so I could step foot out of Colorado and be done with it. It's like 3 miles this side of the border, I think. And presumably that's my road. Looks like I've still just been with the change of the aspens. I was expecting them to be all yellow by now. Okay, and there is today's hitching challenge. Okay, 2:30. I'll have to see how long it takes for me to get a ride down into town. Well, there's something you don't see quite every day.
As much as we can, we're always picking it up.
I really appreciate it.
We used to have a little restaurant.
Battery worked out. I'm going to be
This is the only
taking off
bar in
tomorrow.
town.
Well, that worked out. I got picked up right as soon as the cows went by, and no office here. It's all contactless entry. This will work. A little bit snug and bare bones, and no AC. Okay, resupply is complete, I think. Just have to triage it. Battery appears to be charged, so I seem to be good to go for the morning. Just have to survive the night. Home sweet home.